I never thought the desert could smell so sweet. Not the parched sand or the dry wind that cut across the open square, but the scent of dates, figs, saffron, and oud smoke curling lazily from brass burners outside the spice stalls. I was there for something simple, a basket of fresh dates to take back to the guest house. But what I found instead was a man whose presence would linger in me far longer than any fragrance. His name, as I would later learn, was Nail. At first, I only knew the line of his jaw, the proud arch of his nose, and the way his dark eyes watched me from beneath a white gutter that caught the sun like fire. He wasn't a merchant. He stood apart from the sellers, as though he had come for no reason except to wait for me. Before I take you deeper into this story, let me pause for a moment to speak directly to you, the ones listening, the ones watching. If this tale pulls you in, if you can almost feel the desert wind brushing against your cheek or smell the oud clinging to Nail's clothes, then do me this favor. Like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Tell us where in the world you are watching from, whether it's Cairo, Houston, Lagos, or London. Every story breathes because of its listeners, and I want you to be part of this one. Don't just pass through like a shadow in a souk. Stay, leave your mark. You'll feel bad later if you don't. Nail spoke first. "You're a stranger here," he said, his Arabic laced with the kind of careful English that suggested he didn't often need to use it. I laughed softly, a little embarrassed at how obvious I must have seemed. "Is it that clear?" "It is," he replied, his lips tugging into the faintest smile. "The way you look at the stalls, you don't see spices or cloth. You see stories." And I did. The souk wasn't just a market to me. It was a living heartbeat. Children darted between stalls with sticky hands full of honey cakes. Women in flowing abayas bargained fiercely with vendors, and old men sat cross-legged in the shade, sipping mint tea as if time itself bowed to them. But through it all, I only really saw Nail. He walked with me, though I hadn't asked. His shoulder brushed mine every so often, a spark in the midday sun. When I asked him what he was doing there, he only shrugged. "Looking," he said simply, "and now perhaps guiding." Guiding me, he meant, through the narrow alleys of the souk, past carpets that spill like rivers of red and gold onto the cobblestones, past piles of silver bracelets that clinked softly in the heat. But it felt like he was guiding me into something else entirely, something I couldn't yet name. We stopped at a date stall. The vendor pressed a sample into my hand, soft and sticky sweet, and before I could taste it, Nail leaned closer. "Try the ajwa," he murmured. "They're said to carry blessings." I tasted one, and I swear the world slowed. Or maybe it was just because Nail was watching me, his gaze heavy enough to make my throat dry. "You like them?" he asked. I nodded. But what I liked more was the way his voice dipped low when he spoke, like a secret he was slipping into my ear. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the narrow bed of my guest house, staring at the ceiling fan as it churned warm air above me. I should have been thinking about my travels, about the list of places I had yet to see, the mosque, the old fort, the dunes beyond the city. Instead, all I thought about was Nail's smile, the way it came slowly, like dawn. When sleep finally found me, it was threaded with dreams of sand, shadow, and a man whose hand brushed mine in a crowded souk. The market had faded into quiet by the time I wandered back toward my guest house. The heat of the day had lifted, replaced with the softer embrace of evening air. I thought that was the end of it, that the fleeting glance and touch of the souk would be just another memory stitched into the fabric of travel. But when I turned a corner, there he was again. Nail. He stood outside a cafe, one hand resting casually on the carved wooden doorframe, as if the entire street bent toward him. His smile returned like he had been expecting me all along. "You look thirsty," he said in Arabic accented English, the words both playful and certain. "Come. Tea." I don't know if it was the warmth of his voice or the trace of daring in his eyes, but I followed without hesitation. Inside, the cafe smelled of mint and sugar. The air was thick with oud and murmured conversations. We slid into a corner table, and soon a brass tray appeared, carrying a pot of steaming tea and 2 small glasses. The sound of the pour, the delicate stream of liquid arching high, crashing into glass with bubbles, felt like a ritual. Nail handed me one, his fingers brushing mine just slightly. The touch lingered longer in my chest and on my skin. "You travel alone?" he asked. "Yes," I replied, suddenly aware how alone I felt until now. He tilted his head, studying me with an intensity that made me want to look away, and yet lean closer. "Then tonight, you are not alone." The desert had a way of swallowing sound, of holding silence like a secret. By the time Nail and I reached the camp, the sun had already bled itself into the horizon. Orange faded into violet, violet into the ink of night. The dunes stretched endlessly, their curves catching the last strokes of moonlight. A low tent stood ahead, its fabric rising and falling gently with the breeze. From within came the faint notes of a flute, the smell of cardamom, and the glow of a lantern swaying lazily. Nail pushed the flap open with a hand, holding it for me like he was inviting me not just into shelter, but into his world. Inside it was warmer, softer. Cushions scattered across woven rugs, a silver censer spilling threads of oud smoke into the air. He gestured for me to sit, and when I did, he lowered himself beside me, close enough that our knees brushed. "Do you like it?" he asked. His voice had softened, grown lower, like the desert had pressed its quiet into him. I nodded, unable to trust words. My chest felt tight, not from the journey, but from the way his nearness pulled at me. We talked in fragments, about the desert, about family, about places we want to see. But the words were only shadows. What spoke louder was the way his hand found mine, palm against palm, fingers lacing slowly, deliberately. My breath caught. He turned to me then, his eyes reflecting the lantern light, steady and searching. "A BB," he murmured, the word trembling between us. My heart stuttered at the sound of it, the weight of affection in his tongue. And then, finally, he leaned in. The kiss was unhurried, almost questioning at first, like he was giving me the chance to retreat. But I didn't. I leaned forward too, and in that instant the world outside the tent disappeared. His lips were warm, firm yet tender, tasting faintly of mint tea and desert air. The oud smoke curled around us like an unseen witness. He deepened the kiss, his hand rising the back of my neck, pulling me closer until there was no space left to measure between us. It wasn't just desire, it was release, like we had both been holding this back too long. When we finally broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. We stayed there, breathing each other in, the quiet of the desert pressing close around us. "You are not alone anymore," Nail whispered. And for the first time in a long while, I believed it. The silence between us was no longer empty. It was charged, alive, humming with something I had no name for, but had always craved. Nail's thumb brushed my cheek, slow and reverent, as though memorizing me by touch. His eyes didn't leave mine, even as the fire crackled in the lantern, and the oud smoke swirled in lazy patterns above us. "A BB," he said again, and this time was not a whisper, but vow. I felt the words sink into me like water into desert soil, filling cracks I hadn't realized were there. My hands moved without thought, sliding up to his shoulders, pulling him closer. The thobe he wore was soft beneath my palms, but underneath was the solid heat of him, the strength he carried so effortlessly. He kissed me again, deeper now, his lips pressing with certainty, with hunger. It wasn't rushed, it was deliberate, every second stretched, every sigh shared. My body answered before my mind did, leaning into him, matching his rhythm, caught in the tide of him. When he drew back for breath, his hand cupped the side of my face, his thumb tracing my jaw as though I were fragile. "You feel like home," he murmured. I swallowed hard, my throat tight with something dangerously close to tears. "So do you?" We lay back among the cushions, tangled together, the tent enclosing us in warmth and shadow. His hand slid down my arm, fingers threading with mine, holding me steady as though anchoring me in the storm he had stirred. His other hand rested against my chest, right over my heart, feeling the wild thrum it made just for him. The night wrapped around us, stars burning silently above, and inside that tent, time lost its power. There were no words left to speak, only breath, touch, and the unspoken promise blooming between us. I let myself go, into him, into the moment, into the kind of love that felt both brand new and impossibly ancient. When it was over, we didn't move apart. We stayed close, skin against skin, hearts pressed together, the scent of oud and mint tea lingering. His arm lay heavy and protective across me, his breath warm against my hair. "Habibi," he whispered one last time before sleep claimed us. And in that word, I heard everything: desire, devotion, forever.